Comment from Fred, District, what the hell are you doing for a warm-up? I swear, every time I see you, you just... Oh my god! What's up, Legends? Coach District here, and today we are finally answering your questions as to what the hell I do as a warm-up before hopping on into games. This is by far one of the questions I get asked the most, and today we are finally going to be walking you through not just what I do to warm up my in-game mechanics, but also a bunch of other super important and some secret things that I and other pros do before hopping into ranked, pubs, and even tournaments. Now, Legends, if you want to get better at Apex or any other game for that matter, make sure not only to hit that like button, but also subscribe. It's going to let YouTube know that you don't want to just see videos like mine more often, but also other similar content that will help you learn from the best. It's free, it's easy, and if you ever change your mind, you can do that in the future if you ever become a professional Apex Legends player. But if you don't, you should probably stay subscribed because this is going to help you. I can guarantee it. Now, guys, before I even hop into the game to warm up, whether it be AimLabs, R5 Reloaded, the Apex firing range, Control, TDM, whatever, before I even log onto my computer, there are a handful of things that I do and that other pro players do to get themselves ready, warmed up, mental state going, and locked into what we're about to be doing. Now, one of the very first things that I do is exercise. Now, exercise is going to be one of the most important things when it comes to you warming up and practicing and developing your skills inside of Apex or any other video game that you're playing. And the reason why exercise is so important is because of blood flow. Now, a lot of people may or may not know this, but your brain uses blood. And when you start exercising, you start pumping that blood through your entire body and going to where it needs to be. One of those places being your brain, which is going to help you think better. It's going to help you react better. It's going to help you make better decisions. Overall, you're going to feel more awake, and you're just, in general, going to feel a lot better, especially when it comes to gaming. Now, aside from going to your brain, your blood is also going to be going to other key places, that being your muscles or the things that you're using to move your controller or your mouse and keyboard around. Now, you don't have to do any crazy exercises like hitting the gym and lifting weights or sprinting or anything like that. You can do something very simple like just going outside on a walk like I am, or you could go ride a bike, ride a skateboard, anything, as long as you get your body moving. Now, oftentimes when I don't have time to go and hit the gym, which is my usual go-to every single morning, I'll just do something very simple, like go outside, or even just, or something as simple as just getting on the ground and doing a couple push-ups to get the blood flowing. Now, a second key thing that you're going to have to practice outside of your actual warm-up routine and your physical activity is going to be your sleep. And sleep is arguably one of the most important things. You ever have a day where you just get out of bed and you feel absolutely horrid? Like you can't think, your brain is foggy, you can't play, you can't really decide what you want to eat, you're just not really there. This is one of those awful side effects from just getting awful sleep. So by practicing good sleep, you're gonna feel significantly better. So a couple of key things that you can do to just get better sleep in general is super simple. One being, make sure that you have no screens, no TV, and you're doing something calm and relaxing 30 minutes to an hour before bed. Typically for me, if I'm playing Apex or CSGO or I'm editing a video and then I just turn it all off, go right to bed, I, one, can't get to sleep easily, and two, I find that I wake up a lot throughout the night, meaning I'm just gonna, in general, get really bad sleep. A second key thing that you can do to, in general, get better sleep is take magnesium. Magnesium, I don't know the science behind it, but in general, it helps you get to sleep faster, and it also helps you stay asleep longer. And then the third thing is just trying to get anywhere from 7 to 9 hours worth of sleep every single day. You're gonna feel so incredibly good that you'll be able to hop right on into your warm-ups and just get going. Now, the third and last thing that you need to practice outside of actually in-game practice is just your nutrition. And this is something so undervalued. I'm not saying you need to have the best diet, you have to eat this many carbs and have this many calories and that much fat and whatever. I don't care if you eat junk food, or I don't really care if you eat processed food or whatever. The only thing that matters is that you are getting enough nutrition or enough calories into your body to sustain the energy that is required to play games at a very intense level and at a very long period of time. What I'm trying to get at is that a lot of players, what they tend to do is they like to eat food that spikes their blood sugar, giving them a bunch of energy right away, and then really quickly crashes. And this is where a lot of people feel inconsistency in their gameplay. So a super easy thing that you can do is make sure that you are eating whole foods instead of processed foods, whether it be fresh vegetables or meat or fruit. Those unprocessed foods will sit in your stomach longer, giving you more energy for a longer period of time. You're going to feel less fatigue as quickly. Now, when you take all those three things and you put them together, you end up getting a beautiful recipe to be able to attack your day, your warm-up, and your practices that much better.
Now, once I'm hydrated, caffeinated, nutritionated, exercisinated, sleepinated, I'm ready to put on the headset, sit down, and actually start hopping into the actual warm-up. Now, my actual warm-up consists of two things. One of them is being an aim trainer, whether it be AimLabs or R5 Reloaded, which is a modded version of Apex, or sometimes even the Apex firing range. Usually it's AimLabs. And the other part being I'm in the firing range where I'm not aim training, but rather I'm incorporating movement into my aim. So aim train, movement, smash them together.
And now, a short commercial break.
Now, one of the hardest parts, aside from tracking and flicking on the players that are hitting crazy movement mechanics in the game, is being able to do those mechanics yourself while aiming, especially on controller. When you're playing on controller and you need to do something, we all know that we have to use our thumbs for basically everything. Aiming, moving, interacting, doing anything, right? But aim controllers fixes the issue of having to take your thumbs off the sticks to do whatever it is you need to do by adding these incredible 4 paddles on the back. Now, aim is not a sponsor of today's video. They're just a company that I absolutely love to use myself, especially when I was full-time on controller. Not only does aim controller give you tons of benefits like swappable thumbsticks, 4 paddles, digital triggers, Hall effect thumbsticks, which are the new standard for what a controller should have in terms of thumbsticks, but they also have a full lifetime warranty, meaning if you break your paddle like I did by accidentally throwing it across your room, it's all good because you can ship it to aim controllers for free and they will fix it for you. Now, if you do want to check out aim controllers for yourself, whether to just see what they're all about or even maybe to get one, you can save at a minimum 10% off by using code DISTRICT or by just simply clicking the link in the description down below. And let's get back on into the aim routine. Now, starting on off with my aim train routine as a warm-up, I don't usually spend any more than 5-10 minutes in this part here. I don't want to overtrain myself again, right? Like when you train, you're using a lot of energy, muscles, even though you're not like lifting really hard, you are putting a lot of strain, especially if you go too like really hard for really long. It puts a ton of strain and it actually kind of hurts after a while. So again, I don't really spend all that much time here. Now, there's 2 different ways that I aim train inside of AimLabs, which, by the way, even though I'm doing this on mouse and keyboard on PC, you can actually get AimLabs on console inside of the Xbox App Store, or I don't know whatever it's called anymore. I haven't played Xbox in forever. Now, when it comes to warming up, I always follow 3 simple things, and you can customize this to whatever works best and feels best for you. When it comes to warming up and training, I always put in 2 to 3 minutes on my flicking. I always put in 2 to 3 minutes on my tracking, and I always put 2 to 3 minutes on my switching. Now, just using the rank playlist is a really good way to do that. Or what you can do is you can head on over to training, and you can use the playlist, the Voltaic Benchmark playlist. This here, if I kind of scroll through this, has tons of flicking drills, tons of tracking, and tons of switching drills that you can just try out. Now, the angle shot is a really good task because it teaches you to flick on over to something that is moving. And it teaches you more so not to try to track it to flick it, but to flick into the direction that it's moving. So right now, I'm not trying to flick and track it. I'm flicking into the direction almost ahead of my target so that I can, so that it runs into my crosshair. This is going to just overall give you a good sense of putting your shot where a player should be and giving you some good precisional control as well. Now, when it comes to aim training, whether it be flicking, tracking, switching, it's super important to focus on taking your time and just executing it properly. You don't need to rush and don't need to freak out if you're missing your shots. Just go slow on something that you find enjoyable, and as you get better and better, you can go faster and faster and faster. Now, when I'm also warming up, I'm thinking of different things like my technique in how I do things. So for instance, my acceleration and my stopping, how quick and accurately I move from target to target. I'm not going to talk too much about technique in this video. That's going to be in a practice video that I have coming up next week, hopefully. Yeah, I just like to take my time, and as I get more consistent and I feel everything a lot better, then I'll go harder and harder and harder and faster and faster and faster. Now, after doing anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of a quick little flicking, tracking, and switching warm-up, figuring out what I need to work on that day, then I'll hop on over into the Apex firing range. And it's here that I take all those skills, or rather that quick little warm-up, and then I start applying it to recoil control and actual target switching with specific weapons that I'm going to be using that day, or incorporating movement into the different things that I do. Now, when I practice in the range, I focus on quality of the practice, or rather consistency in my practice. So basically what I mean by this is I want to be able to get in as many reps as possible. So for instance, let's just say I'm going to practice today with the R301 and the Peacekeeper. Instead of practicing with no attachments and making it harder on myself, what I'm actually going to do is practice with the attachments so that I can just practice shooting, moving. Once I get really comfortable having like all maxed out attachments and having a good general feel, then I might actually switch to having no attachments and then making it harder so that I know what it feels like having nothing just before going in game, where I'm going to be dropping in on a gun and not having any attachments for that weapon. In my opinion, an even better area to practice, and if you watch my live streams, you'll see me practicing here and warming up here a lot before I go hop into a coaching session or before I go play a game. But I like to come to this backside of the firing range. Now over here, what I do is I make sure to toggle the dummies to spawn very close. I have them moving in a random, way, and then I set the shield level to mythic to just make them as hard to kill as possible. Now, something else that I do, and this is something that I'm pretty sure only I do, I don't know a single other player that does this. I actually have a config inside of my Apex files where when I hit Shift Escape, it gets rid of my HUD. Now, to me, this is important to practice with. I'm not going to show you how to do this because a friend actually did this for me and he set this up. I have no idea how to actually remove it or add it. So if there's a video somewhere on YouTube, I would encourage you to go and try and find that. With my HUD turned off, I can practice my hip firing, my tracking without any crosshairs, and it's going to give me a better idea in sense as to where I'm aiming. And it's just going to, in general, again, help me practice, not rely on seeing a crosshair on my screen, because I know where the center of my screen is. right? It's less about it's less about seeing where your bullets are going and understanding where your bullets are going to be going instead. Now, in my warm-up, I practice a bunch of different things. Two of the main things that I practice is going to be my poking, my swinging, and my tracking. Now, I always understand when I'm playing in game, like I always hear audio. I know that there's players in these certain directions, so I want to come out practicing free-firing in his direction and snapping over and peeking my target. This way I can keep my health up while also putting in damage as soon as I can. Like this. I hear audio over here, I snap on over. Now I'm connecting shots. Then I also start working on my pushing. Now, if you've watched any of my coaching videos before, and if you haven't, I seriously encourage you to. They are very helpful. I've helped many players go from hard stuck gold to hitting diamond masters consistently. I've helped people solo queue to Apex Predator. But one of the things that I practice, or rather that I coach, is I practice peeking. And as we deal damage, players want to look away, and I'll use that to swing on up into their face. So I'll practice my peek, swing, peek, swing. And again, like I mentioned before, I'm not just incorporating my aim, or rather my warm-up from AimLabs, but I'm incorporating now my movement techniques. Now, another thing that I'm practicing now that I'm finally in the range is also my tracking. Now, there's two different ways that we can track. We can track either with a mirror strafe, or we can track with a counter strafe. Now, both of these things, you're more so going to be using these up close. Mirror strafing is when we follow our enemy. And as you can see right here, I really don't have to put in all that much effort with my right hand to stay on target. All I'm doing is I'm using that left hand, that movement-based hand, to focus on keeping that dummy in the center of my screen. Counter strafing is just the complete opposite. Instead of following my opponent, I'm actually going to be moving in the opposite direction. Now, this is for a bunch of different reasons that I won't necessarily talk too much about today. But one of the main reasons is for the ability to aim smooth. Full video on that coming really, really soon. Aim smoothing is when we basically pull our shot sideways. And as you can see, as I pull sideways, my recoil doesn't kick up into the air. So this is allowing me to get really straight, non-vertical shots, low recoil tracking on my enemies. So again, as I kind of get up close to people, I'll practice my aim smooth, and I'll practice my mirror strafing. Now, mirror strafing is all about, rather these types of strafes is all about paying attention to what your opponent is doing. It's less about thinking what you're doing. This is very helpful because it's just one less thing to think about. Now, also, it's kind of depending on if you're on console or if you're on PC, you can also take this into R5 Reloaded. Now, R5 Reloaded, unfortunately, is only for PC players, but it's still a great way to warm up if you are fortunate enough to be on PC. Now, R5 Reloaded has three actual key things here. They not only have an aim trainer that has different kind of tasks, just like AimLabs, except you're using all of the weapons that are inside of Apex. So tasks like strafing dummies, switching targets, targets that float, popcorn targets that basically just bounce around, close fast strafes, smooth bot, so many different things. They even have armor swap trainers, which is crazy. They also have a movement gym where you can actually practice your movement. They have team death matches and free-for-alls where you can, just like how you have it in like the actual Apex game, but here it's just a little bit more kind of controlled, I guess, a little bit faster pace. But they also have a 1v1 server where you can practice 1v1ing someone back to back to back to back to back, and not just one person, but a bunch of people on the old arena maps. Now, it's not actually arenas, but it's on those maps, and it uses the same guns and basically kind of like the same format. Now, everybody's warm-up is different, and it's oftentimes going to come down to what is more fun for you and what kind of feels good for you. But for me, I like to spend 5 to 10 minutes in AimLabs. Then I like to spend 5 or so minutes in the Apex firing range, and if I'm really feeling it, I'll hop into R5 Reloaded and I'll hop on a 1v1 server, or every now and then I'll spend anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. I'll trade my AimLabs warm-up for an R5 aim trainer warm-up, and I'll focus on switching targets, flicking, and all the same things I would have done in AimLabs, but just in R5 with the actual guns of Apex.